Your host for MotorWeek, John Davis.
Hello and welcome again to MotorWeek. Something a little different up first this week, a comparison road test of two versions of the same car, namely the Chevrolet Corvette. Later on, we'll be taking out the cushy Toyota Cressida for a ride. And since we're testing those vets, Pat Goss thought he'd offer a few tips on Corvette maintenance. Finally, Joyce Braga has the latest word on the soon-to-be-seen Scorpio. That's a new venture from Ford. But right now, let's get to that first test, and it's of this 1985 Corvette, and also of this 1985 Corvette, our unmatched pair of America's premier sports cars. Why unmatched? Well, because it's time to play buyer's choice. We wanted to see how different available transmissions and handling packages might affect the character of the car, and what combination might be right for you for everyday use. Now, this car is equipped with a 4-speed automatic and the standard suspension. While on the other hand, this car is equipped with the Trick 4-speed manual with electronic overdrive and the premier performing Z51 handling package. Now, when you're laying out over 25 grand for a Corvette, you want to make sure you choose the right combination, right? Well, that's correct, and we're more than happy to help you make up your mind.
About whether to fork over at least $24,403 for this bright red standard sprung 1985 Corvette, or $470 more for our companion silver metallic Bullet with the Z51 suspension. Buyers have a no-cost choice between transmissions, but the Silver Vette's manual gearbox and handling hardware did bring its weight to 35 pounds more than the otherwise identical Red Speedster's 3,300 pounds. First, let's see what a difference a gearbox makes. The 4-speed overdrive automatic has a new lock-up torque converter, so it no longer annoyed us by searching between gears when cruising. The 4+3-speed manual, with its very American long shifts, has a Doug Nash-developed electronic overdrive unit that comes in on all but first gear. But for our performance testing, we chose to lock it out. Now, Chevy had promised a shifter top lockout button for 85, but our February-built car still had the less convenient console switch. Now to the near end of Monrovia, Maryland 7580 Dragaway to see which car is king of the straight and narrow. The Silver Vette's manual has a lower first gear, and despite too much torque for best traction, it still got off the line first. The automatic's torque converter took longer to get up to speed, but once it did, the Ruby Rocket stayed bumper to door with the manual through the first third of the track. But then the long throws of the manual gear change began to take their toll, while the automatic's very crisp shifts kept its RPMs high. So by 2/3 of the course, things looked even. And at the end of the run, the Slushbox Vette had actually nosed ahead. 1/4 mile elapsed time for the automatic, an incredible 13.9 seconds at 95 miles per hour, while the only a hair slower manual at an equally impressive 14.2 seconds at 93 miles per hour. So close that with more practice and some smoothing of the manual's linkage with age, it could be a dead heat. But most buyers aren't going to be dragging daily, and there is another issue. Frankly, as much as we love to shift for ourselves, the manual Vette does get tiring in stop-and-go traffic. So we think that unless you're into Corvettes for pure sport, the automatic will be preferred. And now on to the second heat. How did the two Corvettes square off in handling? Well, compared to last year, there are fewer differences between the standard and Z51 setups. The standard suspension can now also be ordered with Delco Bilstein gas shocks. Likewise, all tires are the super sticky Eagle VR50 series with unidirectional tread. Rims are 16-inch diameter. Where the Z51 setup last year had wider rear wheels, equal units are now fitted at all corners on both cars. But there is still a difference on how those tires and wheels are steered. The standard car has a very quick power rack and pinion unit with 2.5 turns lock to lock, and the Z51 an even quicker ratio with only 2 turns lock to lock. Through the slalom, the standard red Vette was a joy. Neutral in response, there was loads of driver feedback, and you could practically think the car through corners. You always knew exactly what was going to happen and always had more than enough power to get out of trouble, although it was hard to find. Yet we did note that rough spots in the track made the rear wheels momentarily lose some grip. As for the silver car with its Z51, there was little question that anyone into weekend racing will prefer this option. Compared to the standard setup, the Z51 Vette was always quicker through the course. The minimal roll of the standard package is reduced, and there was no tendency for the rear wheels to hop over slight pavement bumps. However, the faster steering of the Z51 meant that there was little margin for error, or you'd turn well before intended. Also, the Z51 is so good that you're not aware of its limits of adhesion until you've passed them, a comment that before now had generally been made only about the best cars from those overseas folks at Porsche. More important for everyday use, both the standard suspension and the Z51 have been softened for a better ride. When the Corvette was redesigned last year, we found the ride in all models to be very harsh. But both of these 85 cars were very comfortable over even the roughest roads, although we did find the silver Z51 Vette less forgiving in bumpy turns. So again, both cars were terrific, but we think that since the standard setup has so much upgrading this year, and yet the ride is so outstanding, that it would be our choice over the Z51, again, except for sports car purists. So okay, you now have ordered your automatic or manual 1985 Corvette, probably without the Z51 package, so what else is new over the 84 model? Well, only this logo outside. But it clues the presence of the most powerful version yet of Chevy's 5.7-liter V8. Its tuned port injection combines multi-port fuel delivery with an induction plenum that pulsates the intake air. That increases the air's density, much like a turbocharger, but without the complexity. The result is 12% more horsepower at 230 and 14% more torque at 330. Top speed is now 150 miles per hour. Other mechanical improvements include a larger plastic brake master cylinder booster and new disc pads for sure stops. Distances from 55 varied only slightly between our cars. The red automatic stopped in 103 feet after 6 tries. The manual in an even 100 feet. Both some of the shortest stopping distances we've ever seen. However, the standard suspension car did exhibit a mild case of rear axle hop that was not present with the stiffer Z51 package. Interior alterations are minimal and mostly on options. The multi-adjustable sports seats can now be ordered in leather, and the glass top has more sun screening. However, all Vettes get altered instrument graphics. While we'd still like a good set of gauges, this year's digital readouts are bigger and brighter. So what's ahead for the 86 Corvette? Well, only the first convertible since 1975, also an anti-lock brake system, and this high-mounted stoplight. Now, a sneak look at a prototype told us that it will be a small light bar tastefully integrated into the top of the rear hatch. Smart additions to this year's already amazingly improved car with its powerful choice of drivetrains and a chassis that doles out an easy-to-take ride without any compromise in handling. And whether you pick the standard suspension or Z51, manual or automatic, you're in for one heck of a ride.